So let me start by introducing myself. As you guys know, my name is Angad Singh Ranyal, but what you guys don't know is that I was an average student, an average sports person. Then I did my engineering in electronics and communication. I worked as a network optimization engineer for 21 months in a telecom joint. Then I did my MBA and majored in marketing. Then I worked in an e-commerce firm for 15 months. And I did all this in my life so that one day I could quit a stable paying job and become a stand-up comedian. I just hope that my audience doesn't find my jokes to be average. But whenever you hear stories about people who have taken these unconventional paths, you hear them talking about how it was their passion since childhood, how they were a rebel in their families, how they fought against all odds to achieve their dreams. My story is nothing like that. I'm 27. I got introduced to stand-up comedy at the age of 17. And in a manner just like every other Indian, I illegally downloaded a torrent of Russell Peters. But when I saw that, I never thought that one day I will become a stand-up comedian. It's as recent as 2 years that I started believing in myself, that actually I can become one. Which brings me, and stand-up in India is a very recent phenomenon. English stand-up is not even a decade old in India. We used to have stand-up around 60s, 70s and 80s, but it was more of a mimicry, not stand-up. Which brings me to my first question, what is stand-up? Stand-up is an art form in which the comic is directly talking to the audience, expressing his opinions in a funny manner. What are his likes, what are his dislikes, what he feels about a certain issue. We have some other styles in India currently. One of them is improv. In improv, the audience as well gets involved in the act. Suggestions are taken from the audience and the performer thinks on the spot about a particular issue. So in an improv, you will find each show is different, it's unique because the performer is thinking on the spot. But in stand-up, the show is well rehearsed, the jokes are well practiced, it's kind of a scripted show, but it is performed with the energy of the audience. Lastly, a style which in India is picking up is sketches. Sketches are basically small comedy vignettes or let's say a short film. And in terms of live performances, it hasn't really picked up. It's a big thing on YouTube right now. I guess you know all about these channels, TVF, AIB, EIC, which are coming out with comedy, sketches, and talking about issues that we are facing. Now, all these three have their different mediums, they have different processes, but what everybody is trying to tell is a joke. And I always get this question asked, Angad, how do you write a joke? It's pretty simple. Like most things in life, it starts with a simple idea. Like last night, I was at a bar. I ordered a beer and the waiter asked me, sir, do you want your beer to be chilled? That's an obvious question. Why would he ask me? Obviously, I want my beer to be chilled. But it's an idea where the waiter is asking an illogical question. That's not the idea. The idea is to take a step back. It's that people ask you illogical questions. So what you do is you take this idea about people asking illogical questions and think about everything that happens in your life and try to take these cases. Like you might be at a movie hall, you meet an old friend who's asking you, what are you doing here? Obviously I'm watching a movie, what else I'm doing here? So you collect all these similar ideas, all right, and put them together. But they're still not jokes, they need to be made a joke. For instance, when the waiter asked me, sir, do you want your beer to be chilled? I told him, no, absolutely not. What an outrageous question. I want my beer to be heated at 100 degrees centigrade. Then bring it to me, I'll take beer vapor from it. Now this is an excessive rant. I'm taking it to a complete different zone. You can also relate it to things. Like I can say the red in TEDx is so red that it reminds me of Sunny Leone's lips. Anything bizarre situation. So not every idea will take you to a joke, but some of them will. So let's say these three ideas, they took me to a joke. Now I have these jokes, but I need to put them in a series so that so the audience can understand. So I have these 5 jokes in a series. Now I have a story, I have a set ready. Now what I will do is I will go out and test it in 3 different audiences. What we are trying to achieve over there are 2 things. First of all, that we appeal to all people of different ages. So even an 18-year-old and a 60-year-old, there is something for everybody there. Second is that we try to have at least one joke every 15 to 20 seconds. Even a small chuckle, a small smile. So when you try these jokes, you figure out that already, some things that probably you thought were funny and you thought you were a genius because you came up with them. Maybe the audience doesn't feel that much. Or maybe some things that you felt, well, but then suddenly the people are laughing, so you start building upon it. So what you do is you basically drop the weak jokes and you're left with a strong, solid set that you try out at many places over a period of time. you try to hone that skill, and that's how a comedy set comes along. Now, as I was planning to quit my job, there were a lot of things that I had to consider, but I figured out I could probably put them down into 4 simple points where I feel anybody who's planning to quit his corporate job and trying to take a road less taken should go through. The first point I believe is that you should test yourself. All right. Whatever idea you have, for example, yes. So you should test yourself, no matter. So if you have a talent, if you want to be a singer, you want to be a dancer, you want to be a cartoonist, people around you will tell you, you have the talent, take the risk. Take the risk, my friend. I will tell you, hold your horses. All right. I'm not saying you're not talented or you don't have the potential. But in today's world, where social media is so big, everybody is consuming it every 7 seconds. You have the perfect platform to test yourself out. So if you want to be a singer, release your covers on SoundCloud. If you want to be a dancer, put your videos on YouTube. In fact, even if you have a different business idea, there are communities that you can go and test it out. In today's time, you have no excuse to not really test yourself out. I started doing stand-up comedy in 2012, and we start by shows called open mics. Open mics are shows where anybody can come and try a 4 or a 5 minute sequence. When I did my first 4 to 5 minutes, it was terrible. Nobody laughed, except for one joke. So just like in a boxing match where you get beaten up, your face gets injured, this is what my face was after that 5 minute sequence. But you don't give up. To my mind, I thought that, okay, I at least made them laugh on one joke. I will build on that. I will come back next week, next month, and have a solid 5 minutes. And that's what I did. I went from 5 minutes to 10 minutes to 15 minutes to finally reaching a point where I had 30 minutes. As a comic, when you reach 30 minutes is when the audience starts really noticing you, where people remember you. It took me 18 months to start from 5 minutes and reach to 30 minutes. During this time, 80% of the time I was a student. The rest of the time I was working in a corporate firm. And during this time I honed my skills. I understood how the industry works. I even tried to understand whether it is financially viable for a person of my talent. It's only then that I decided to take this risk. And when people talk about, how do you find the time to do this? You were studying, you were working, how do you do that? I'm saying it's pretty simple. The next point I want to say is that you should change them to I. You will find 9 million reasons to not do something. But the only reason to do it is because you want to do it. In a nutshell, stop being lazy. Get out, do what you want to do in life. Stop pointing your fingers at others. Don't blame them that they didn't let me do it. If you're not doing something, blame yourself. See, as the announcer said that CNN-IBN rated me as one of the top 20 stand-up comics in India. So at one point, CNN-IBN believed that I was one of the top funniest people in India. Do I think I am? No. There are people who are way more funnier than me, but they're too scared of being on stage. They don't know how to write jokes. They don't know how to construct a storyline in their mind. How was I able to do it? Because I took everything that came my way. I never said that, my family is against doing that, or I have too much studies. I found the time to do those things. Way back in 2007, I started this blog called Funnystein. Terrible. I wrote some 50 posts. Please don't go home and read them. It's very bad. But what happened that when I started writing it, there's some people who started liking it, commenting on it. And that became a drug for me. Because every post, I wanted more likes and more comments. If at a particular post, the comments would go down or the likes would go down, I would analyze that and come up with a better post the next time. I truly believe that if I hadn't started that blog in 2007, I wouldn't be today here talking about this thing. Similarly, I started doing dramatics when I was in BTech. I used to travel 1.5 hours one side where my friends used to party and everything, but I never went for those parties because I used to go for rehearsals. And everybody used to ask me, why are you doing this? And I said, because I enjoy it. That's the only reason. I never thought that time which I spent will give me a confidence in my voice, will give me voice modulation, would today make me a better comic. So if there is anything out there that you want to do it, just go ahead and do it. Don't find excuses to miss out on it. Which brings me to my third point. Whenever people are talking about taking a creative side, they think that education is not important. Job experience is not important. What they basically think is about this. We don't need no education. What I believe is this. We need education. When I told my parents that I'm planning to quit, they had this theory. They were like, Beta, you're a BTech, you're an MBA. What about these degrees? They will be a waste. I believe no education is ever a waste. Look at MBA. I studied about brand management. Today, I am a brand manager. I'm a brand manager of myself. I'm my own product. The packaging might look bad. But I am my own product. I have to position myself in the market so that if one of you sees my face on the poster, you know it's a guarantee that it will be a good show inside. We talk about consumer behavior, how the consumer are reacting. My audience is my consumer. I need to know what is trending, whether it is Facebook, Twitter, or Tinder. When I say Rahul Gandhi, certain things automatically come in your mind, women empowerment, etc., etc. But I need to know that these things are changing. What if tomorrow Rahul Gandhi's image changes? I can't say the same thing. So I need to understand how my consumer is behaving, my audience is trending these days. And what happens is that, I can go on talking about different topics. It's not about different topics, it's about education as a whole. Because what education does to you, it makes you smarter. It makes you responsible, it gives you discipline, which straight away gives you an edge over every other person in that same field. So if there is anything, you can come and tell me, how in this profession education will help you. I will tell you ways in which it can help. You just need to look at it through a different lens. But the one bad thing education does to people of our generation is, it gives them ego. Everybody thinks, oh, I'm an MBA, why should I do this? I'm a BTech, why should I do this? And this is where I believe that if you want to pursue something that you really like, don't get bowed down by your own ego, weighed down by your own ego. You kill it. Forget about it. When I was talking about starting dramatics, my first big role for which I used to travel so much and miss all the college fun was of a horse-headed man. So my face was covered with a horse mask. Nobody knew that I was performing. The director asked me to walk like a horse. So for 2 hours, I was walking like this on the stage. But if I hadn't done that, I wouldn't be confident enough to stand here today. As a stand-up comic, we get opportunities to perform at marriages. We get opportunities to perform in people's drawing room, on their rooftop. Rich people, obviously. But once I was sitting down with my MBA friends and I told them that, hey, I'm going to perform at a marriage. They didn't say anything, but their body language and their face kind of said that, dude, really? You're an MBA from such a prestige institute, you're not going to perform at a wedding? And I'm thinking, why not? At the end of the day, they are also my audience. I'll share a true story with you. As an MBA, I was working in this e-commerce firm where I sat for one whole weekend, clicking on 1,000 links, one after the other, just to check whether the product had the required information. I didn't do MBA so that I can click on 1,000 links either. If I'm doing that because it's part of my job, it's part of my responsibility, so when I'm taking a different path, it's part of my responsibility to grow myself up. Yes, there will come a day when I will perform in front of 1,000 audience, but today if I'm getting a marriage show, I will take it. So the way I see it, if there is something that you don't like about what you're doing, either become so big that you don't need to do it, or either become so big that you have somebody else to do it. I will just leave you with this final thought that I have already said before. If there is something you want to do in life, just do it. Don't blame others. Blame yourself for not doing it. Thank you, everybody.